that is being ruled by various entities. The subplanes are indicated above by the triangles in the center. The pictures of beings you see are of various ascended masters or gods who rule different parts of the planes. The four outer points are the gates. The Kabbalah reflects the same thing, indicating the planes as spheres or hexagrams. They also served as calendars because the alignment of everything from above and below is perfectly in order. Breaking through the netherworld with obviously his car in tow, my friend got stuck. How this appeared in our realm was he looked to me to be gone, wacko, done, goosed. I was gathering myself fast, still feeling the strength, but also thinking of the full parameters of what just occurred. I knew that I had to do something fast because my friend Fiend was saying the same two words over and over so loud eventually the neighbors would call the cops. He seemed to be in a mental loop. Using the word I yelled it into his mouth, it was all I could think to do. Later he said at that moment he saw a light and he was able to hurry to it. That brought him back to this plane. That was my second vivid spiritual encounter. We will now mention with no more delay our source, the exact one with no equation, beyond capacity and function, jubilant mantra dispersed in realities self-generated. We swoon in ecstasy when you touch us, and we guard thy beloved with our life as no cost. The charge is to admonish the guided with exact knowledge of this time sequence and its mysteries we will expose as they lay bare before us. This is so all things may be made clear and the path may be made level for thy feet. Think not these works are those of my own, nay, I was found by the source headed swiftly in the wrong direction, it was then I was visited. In that state I was strengthened by the hosts who perceiving in me such a lowly state but a subtle glow as we all possess the remnants of a brighter star in our 11 Page hearts. It was through them it was conveyed to me in my mishaps. It was in such joy of returning to the true path and turning from the abyss that I light ultra-rays resplendent that will exhaust plutonium fuel cells so all in the darkness may know of and come to receive the real light. It was then I knew that the world could raise its entire vibration by contact with just one person who could hold the frequency. The voice that entered inside of my head after the charge started to tell me things that I had never read or seen before. I also felt the activation of the opposite hemisphere of my brain which came first as a separate voice with a mind of its own. At first I thought I had gone crazy or had broken something in my brain. As I settled down I realized it was my other half so excited to be heard finally. I spent weeks on Google checking the information after it was made known to me and I was fascinated with such a breakthrough as everything that was being spoken into my mind was accurate, not to mention the personal hidden things it revealed. For me at that moment I knew there was something they were not telling us, this should be the first subject in school. I imagined how much the encounter would enliven the youth. This is what we wanted. Later when I was able to enter higher states through simple whole-body breathing techniques I realized our potential as a species is definitely a threat to anything that seeks to rule over the human race. It would not be possible, the energy of freedom is too great and when felt, one's life means nothing if they cannot constantly feel it again. If the humans were to unlock their true self thus broadcasting a higher signal or frequency that would permeate the globe, it would surely burn holes in the nets and webs created to surround our atmosphere at most fear that's keeping us trapped within. They admit the eye can see thousands of miles when there is no atmosphere, this was another phenomena they recorded when in space. This is the time one is now free to feel and receive the truth from the thin air which contains a stream of information of now, past, future and most valuably who we really are. Who we really are is the biggest secret period, any wise man thinking on that will agree. What I also felt more than I understood was that it was harder to destroy a planet than it was to keep it in harmony and peace. The planet was so strong, I watched how much she took payloads of nuclear arsenals, H-bombs and A-bombs all while keeping the children snug on the other side of the world, spinning lightly on her axis with only a slight wobble. This is the true food for thought. I was convinced that the majority would want to be on a higher vibration and I set out almost immediately on that quest. What was conveyed to me then was that many people in our history all the way until our current day claiming spiritual enlightenment, especially the New Agers, were talking to angels and masters that had in fact corrupted our world long ago. Many of these beings at a certain point were workers of a much greater force, thus they learned various mental and spiritual techniques that appear godlike to humans. In time, pride, jealousy, selfishness, and scarcity crept in. The order and ideas that they should divvy up everything that was resourceful to them became prevalent. This is in part due to the nature of the Most High, which does not watch all its creations like a micromanager. 12 PAGE. Once the design is put in place, it's off creating more universes, and all in time will eventually take its proper form. However, there are phases in between. The creations make up the entire construct of allowing those in-between phases to be possible. We sharpen each other. As with all things, some beings have more senses, thus more power than others. These beings are oftentimes given the name angels, although their classification is much vaster and the term angel is far from the word that should be used. Consider this: most modern angels' names end in El. El is the name given by the Hebrews of their God, which corresponds to our planet Saturn. This means all the angels work for El, and this you will see is true on various levels as we go on. You will learn to trace the origin of a name using a system that is infallible. Through the correct procedure you can seriously have a guide to the universe and a map to other worlds beside Earth Dimension 3. Breaking down Saturn, you have Saturn or Za and Turn. The word with the most practical use out of these combinations is Saturn. As we go on you will learn who Sat is. As said before, the original name for this planet was El, thus the new name given in English signifies some type of unity between this being Sat and another simply called Urn. When we drop the N to see if we can get any more clarity, since an urn's basic meaning is just something you use to put the ashes of the cremated dead in, we find a place that syncs up her. Ur was known as Chaldea, also known as Samaria, also known as Babylon. History says Ur of Chaldea, home of magic, Chaldean magic, and the Necronomicon spell book, was also home of a young boy known as Abram, later Abraham. According to the story, Abram's father Terah made idols known as teraphim, and it was Abram's responsibility to peddle those idols to the people. It was said Abram rejected the worship of the idols because they had no power. He later discovered the true God and thus became the father of all mankind, just like that. Logically, this story has to have some type of hidden meaning because its literal definition is preposterous, although almost all people believe in the literal meaning. They believe Abraham is their ancestral father even when their genealogy places them somewhere like Africa or Asia. These household teraphim caused much trouble throughout the Bible even after Abram's exit from Ur. Rachel stole teraphim from her father and he could not rest until they were returned. A few other similar stories exist like this. It is revealed that the sylphs, serpent spirits of the air whom I call Siths, inhabited these items and would bring forth oracles of the future. Abraham's wife is Sarah, his father is Terah. It is obvious the real story here is about the unity of the seraphim and the teraphim, both being spirit forms. Again, since the Bible is a partial account of various stories, only those who really have dissected the clay tablets are able to cross all these characters back over to their original Sumerian archetypes, along with putting together the details of their story about what went on. When we are simply looking for truth and spiritual growth, this all becomes too much. So many have never researched any of this and are at the altars blindly saying Amen. They might as well add Ra after that, it's still the same being. Amen Ra. Blindly they are dragged about. 13 PAGE. All the stories from the Sumerian tablets are retold in the Torah after a few alterations, mainly with the names of the individuals involved. By changing the names it became virtually impossible for the common people of the times, most of whom could not read nor write, to realize they were actually still following the religion of the Chaldeans long after being led from captivity. The Hebrews became enslaved by the Babylonians, along with many other nations afterward. As more cultures are put into the melting pot of Babylon, facts become blurred with fiction and languages are turned to Babel. Terah, Abraham's father, and Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, are so close together in spelling it begs one to wonder what is meant by all this. You will soon see that many of the stories being told are the events of the crossbreeding